Would any of you advise a client to defy a federal court order?
No.
None of you would? How about you, Professor?
I mean, under most circumstances, we follow the government and private parties follow court orders. I suppose I would not rule out ever the possibility that in a sufficiently egregious order, there should be some consideration of whether there's a way.
So in some cases,
I think it's a qualified answer, yes.
In some cases you would.
In an extremely narrow band of cases, I think it would be considered, yes.
Okay. Do any of you think that nationwide or universal injunctions are not being abused?
I'm not sure what if I may, Senator, I'm not sure what the time horizon of the question is. I don't think that there could be good faith disagreements about the correctness of some of them, but I have not seen in the last 4 months abuse. No.
I've read your stuff and I've read your writings, and I don't want to get bogged down with this, but I have little respect for your opinion because I've read your stuff. When someone is in the White House that you agree with and someone gets a universal injunction against him, you don't like universal injunctions. You called them judges acting like they're politicians in robes and judges looking like crass political actors. But now that President Trump's in the White House, who you dislike, you think that universal injunctions taste like pumpkin pie. So I have to discount what you say because I think you act on your political beliefs. And I worry that that's what you're teaching your kids. So I'll leave you out of that. Do you think nationwide injunctions are being abused?
Sir. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow patriots, welcome back to the Heritage Hustle, where we call it like it is and stand firm on American values, truth, and the Constitution. I'm your host, and today we're reacting to a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing that, frankly, tells us everything we need to know about what's wrong with our judicial system and academia today. You want to know why this country is slipping from the founding principles our fathers bled for? You want to know why Americans don't trust our courts, our universities, or the so-called experts? Well, buckle up because you're about to see exactly why, all right there in this transcript.
Certainly, Senator. I think that is...
They're being abused by both sides, aren't they?
Yes, Senator.
Both Republicans and Democrats are forum shopping, aren't they?
Certainly.
Professor, do you disagree with that?
I think both sides are abusing them. I agree.
Okay. Both sides.
Yeah.
There are no clean hands here. Now, your suggestion is that when a federal judge issues a nationwide injunction, there should be an automatic stay and an expedited right of appeal. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Do you disagree with that?
I haven't given enough thought to have a position on it, Senator.
I suspect, Professor, your answer will be it depends on who's president.
No, Senator.
Let me ask you about this. What if we had a rule? I was reading an article the other day. I'm not suggesting it. I just want your opinions. That said, if a president, any president, issues an executive order, let's say, that clearly violates settled Supreme Court precedent, that a federal judge can't issue a nationwide injunction. For example, if a president issued an order that said no one in America has right to counsel any longer, including but not limited to, in a felony case, having the government pay for your lawyer if you can't afford it. That clearly violates settled Gideon v. Wainwright. In that case, a judge has no authority or does have authority to issue a nationwide injunction. But in a case where the law is unclear, a judge should refrain from that. Now, obviously, we'd have to trust our judges, but we're supposed to be able to trust them anyway. What do you think about that?
I don't agree with that, Senator, because I think universal injunctions transgress the limitations under Article 3, even if the underlying merits are clear.
I happen to agree with you. I don't think there's any basis under Article 3, under Supreme Court precedent, under the English common law for nationwide injunctions. I think politicians have helped judges, and many judges are politicians, to just make it up. And many of them are like Professor Shaw here. If they like the president, they're against nationwide injunctions. If they don't like the president, they're for him. Professor, let me ask you this while I have you. On April 22nd, 2024, you said there are some members of the Supreme Court that are evil. Which justices were you talking about?
I'll take it your word, Senator. I don't recall using that word, but
All right, here's what you said. You were talking about the majority opinion in Muldrow v. City of St. Louis. You said, quote, Justice Kagan, will she be able to control the opinion's future distortion by her evil colleagues? Probably not, end quote. Who were you talking about?
sir, I'm very skeptical. If it's a transcription, it was probably a transcription error. I do not think I said.
No, you said it. Why don't you own up to it? Which you call some of the members of the Supreme Court evil. Now, which ones do you think are evil?
I would have to refresh my recollection. I've been very critical
You're
of some
embarrassed
members of the
that
Supreme
you made
Court.
that statement, aren't you?
I'm
You're an officer
Senator, it
of the
doesn't sound
court.
like something that
You know
I
what
would
I'm
say.
embarrassed at? That you're teaching our kids.
I don't refer to Supreme Court justices as evil in the classroom,
on
sir.
your podcast, April 22nd, 2024.
Okay, well,
big as Dallas. And you're an officer of the court, and you're here advising us to be respectful of federal judges, and you say they're evil members of the United States Supreme Court? Gag me with a spoon. You're part of what's the problem in all of this.
Let's kick it off with the opening line from this Senate hearing. A senator asked a panel of law professors a very basic, very serious question. Would any of you advise a client to defy a federal court order? Folks, this is not a trick question. This is not some legal riddle. The answer should be a clear and resounding, and we follow the law. But what do we get from one of these so-called experts? He says, and I quote, well, in an extremely narrow band of cases, I think it would be considered. Are you kidding me? This is the kind of ideological rot that's infected our elite institutions. This man, a professor who teaches your kids, is saying that sometimes it's okay to defy the rule of law if he feels it's sufficiently egregious. That's the problem right there. These professors are not teaching law, they're teaching activism. They're laying the groundwork for people to disregard the Constitution and our courts if they personally feel the law is unfair. That ain't how justice works in America. So then the hearing moves to a hot-button issue nationwide, or universal injunctions. You've probably heard of them when activist judges block Trump's executive orders across the entire country. It's not justice, it's sabotage. A senator asks whether these injunctions are being abused. And get this, the witnesses can't even answer with clarity. One says he hasn't seen any abuse in the last 4 months. 4 months. Let me tell you something. These injunctions have become the left's favorite tool. They can't beat us at the ballot box, so they run to the courts. Liberal judges in blue states, often with no jurisdiction outside their region, are halting national policies that were voted in by the American people. And suddenly, when a Republican like Trump is in office, nationwide injunctions become as common as Biden's gaffes. Here's the truth. These injunctions weren't part of the founders' plan. They're not in Article 3. They don't exist in common law. They are a modern weapon created by activist judges to override the will of the people, and they're being abused. One of the most powerful moments in this hearing, and one that should go viral, is when a senator calls out a professor's blatant hypocrisy. This professor had previously trashed nationwide injunctions when a Democrat was in the White House, called judges politicians in robes back then. But now that Trump is the president, suddenly those same injunctions taste like pumpkin pie, in the senator's words. That's the left, folks. That's academia. These people don't care about consistent legal principles. They care about raw political power. If a judge blocks Trump, that's heroic resistance. If a judge blocks Biden, that's dangerous overreach. Make it make sense. This is why we, the people, don't trust the system anymore. We see the double standards. We see the games. And we're tired of it. To be fair, and I always aim to be fair here on this channel, the senator points out that both Republicans and Democrats have abused this process. Reshaping, picking judges who they know will rule their way. And I agree both sides have dipped into that well. But let's be real honest with each other. Only one side gets cover from the media, the law schools, and the so-called experts. Only one side gets away with it while the other is smeared as fascist or anti-democratic. Remember when Trump tried to secure the border? Liberal judges in San Francisco blocked him nationwide. But when Biden uses executive orders to erase immigration laws, silence. So yes, both sides may play the game, but only conservatives are punished for it. One of the more reasonable suggestions that came up in this hearing was that when a federal judge issues a nationwide injunction, there should be an automatic stay and a fast-track appeal process. That just makes sense. If a single unelected judge can block national policy, shouldn't there at least be a system to challenge that quickly? But again, what do we get from the professors? Shrugs. Indecision. I haven't given enough thought to that. This is why regular Americans have lost faith in the experts. They act like they're the smartest people in the room, but when asked to support basic checks and balances, they suddenly go dumb. There's a hypothetical brought up in the hearing. A rule that says, if a president issues an executive order that clearly violates settled Supreme Court precedent, then yes, a judge can block it nationwide. But if the law is unclear, if it's in a gray area, then maybe judges should stay in their lane and let the people decide through elections. Now that's a position I can support. That's how our system is supposed to work. Unfortunately, we've got too many judges who want to make law from the bench and too many professors encouraging it. The only judges we should trust with nationwide power are those who follow the Constitution, not those who rewrite it from their chambers. Now hold on to your hats, folks, because this next part of the hearing had me spitting my coffee. One of the professors, a law professor, mind you, is confronted by a senator about calling Supreme Court justices evil. Let me repeat that. A law professor, someone sworn to uphold the law, someone entrusted to educate the next generation of attorneys, allegedly called some Supreme Court justices evil. That is outrageous. When confronted, he dodged, deflected, pretended it was a transcription error. But the senator reads the exact quote back to him, word for word, dated April 22nd, 2024. And yet, this professor still won't own up to it. Still tries to act like it didn't happen. You tell me, patriots, is this the kind of person we want shaping the minds of our future leaders? This hearing wasn't just about court orders or legal theory. It was about something much bigger. We're watching the collapse of trust in our institutions. When judges play politics. When professors preach ideology instead of truth. When laws are enforced unequally depending on who's in power. That's not a democracy. That's not a constitutional republic. That's banana republic territory. And we, the people, have a responsibility to stand up not with violence, not with chaos, but with courage and clarity. By voting. By speaking up, by holding our leaders and their so-called experts accountable. This whole conversation reminded me of something bigger, the left's war on the Supreme Court. They hate that they don't control the court anymore. That's why they scream about packing the court.
Would any of
That's
you
why they smear
advise
justices. That's why
client
professors call them evil, because
to
they dare
defy
to follow
a
the
federal court
Constitution
order?
instead of the mob. The left doesn't want a neutral legal
None
system.
of you would? How
They
about
want a
you,
rigged
Professor?
system. and they'll attack any
I mean,
institution
under
they
most
don't
circumstances,
control.
we follow the government
It's up
and
to
private
us to
parties follow
defend
court
those
orders.
institutions,
I suppose
not
it's
because they're
not. I would not
perfect,
rule
but
out
because
ever
they're
the
worth
possibility
saving.
that in a sufficiently egregious
what do we
order,
do,
there should be
patriots?
some
We stay
consideration
alert.
of whether there's a way.
We call out
No, I think it's a
hypocrisy.
qualified answer.
We
Yes,
defend
Some
the
cases you
Constitution.
would.
in an
and we refuse
extremely
to be
narrow
silent.
band of
We
cases,
raise
I
our
think it would
kids
be
to think
considered.
critically,
Yes.
Okay.
not just parrot what professors say. We support judges
do
who
any of
believe in
you
the law,
think
not activism.
that
We demand our
nationwide
representatives stand
universal
strong
injunctions are
and pass
not
real
being
reform to
abused?
reign in rogue judges. Because if we lose the rule of law, we lose the
I'm not sure what
republic.
if I may,
And
Senator, I'm
I,
not sure what the
for
time
one,
horizon of
will
the
not
question
let
is.
that
I
happen on
don't
my
think
watch.
that
This is the
there
heritage
could
hustle.
be good faith
This
disagreements
is
about
where
the
the truth
correctness of some
lives.
of them, but I have
And I'm
not
not
seen in the
backing
last
down.
4 months
Professor, you
abuse.
Make sure to
No.
like,
I've read your
subscribe,
stuff.
and share this video
And
with
I've
fellow
read your
patriots.
writings. I don't want to get
Drop a
bogged down
comment
with
below.
this,
Do you
but
trust the courts? Should
I have
professors who
little
call
respect
justices evil
for
be
your
allowed to
opinion
teach?
because
Until
I've read
next
your
time,
stuff.
stay free,
When someone
stay
is in the
bold,
White House
and
that
stay
you
proud
agree
to be an
with,
American. God bless
and
you, and
someone
God bless
gets a
the United
universal
States of
injunction
America.
against him,